Hi guys, welcome to the channel today. We're going to be looking over Pauper today. I'm going to be doing my first video for our Pauper leagues. The deck that I normally play is this one. This one I like to call either Is It Blitz or Eye Candy. Other people call it Blue-Red Delver or Blue-Red Fiend. There's all kinds of names for this deck, but they're all essentially the same thing. So if you've never played Pauper before, you're looking at only commons, and it's a Magic Online only format right now. So the cards that are allowed as commons are only ones that have been printed on Magic Online. So there's some weird exceptions where there's cards that have been printed at common in regular Magic that haven't been printed at common on Magic Online. And there's some cards that have been printed at common on Magic Online that haven't been printed at common in regular Magic. Some examples are things like Chainer's Edict has been printed as a common on Magic Online, but has not been printed as a common in Paper Magic. So some things like that. There's just a few notable exceptions. But essentially, it's just all commons on Magic Online. Any set counts. So any set is okay. That means that this is actually a very powerful format. And this deck is kind of a combo deck. It might look like an aggro list. It does have 4 Delver of Secrets. It does have 4 Lightning Bolts. So it does have some cards like that where it kind of looks like it's kind of aggressive. But realistically, these are red herrings, especially the Delvers. Delver is often just like a way to distract your enemy and put a little bit of pressure on them, get them to have to use removal on that. They really should be using or need to use later on things like Ilyon Fiend. You can win games with Delver, but it doesn't happen as often as you'd think. The big cards are Ilyon Fiend and Nivik Cyclops. So both of these cards have, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, you get +3/+0, and then you just get to go to town. This one can actually attack as though it didn't have Defender. It normally has Defender. This one doesn't matter. It just gets +3/+0 whenever you play an instant or a sorcery. You're basically always going to be playing an instant or a sorcery, so you don't need to worry about the Defender text on Nivik Cyclops. Now the combo, as it were, is Temur Battle Rage and any number of spells to equal lethal. So this is going to give you double strike. So all you really need to do is Temur Battle Rage will already put it to 4, so you need 2 other spells. So you need Temur Battle Rage, 2 other spells, which is really, really easy when you look at the list that we have. These all cost 1. These cost 1 or 0. Artful Dodge costs 1, and you can flash it back from the graveyard. You have Dispel that costs 1, you have Ponders that cost 1, and you have Preordains that cost 1. And Ponder and Preordain are exceptionally useful because, of course, you get to be able to dig to other spells, so sometimes you can look at your hand, not have the kill, but have some Ponders and Preordains and just dig until you have it. Apostle's Blessing is also an important thing because it can be cast for 1 again. You just pay 2 life. And you also get to fight through a little bit of removal with it. Same with cards like in our sideboard and Mizium Skin. So that's kind of the importance of Apostle's Blessing in this list. Now, Lightning Bolt is often for a little bit of extra damage to the opponent's face, or more commonly if you're against like an aggro deck to just get some painful creatures out of the way. Artful Dodge is great because then it means that they can't block with their creatures. I like having 4 of them. My list is a little different than some others you might see. I might be changing this now that Rise of Eldrazi, Oath of Gatewatch has come out, and you've got Slip Through Space, because that actually draws a card. I'm not entirely certain. I'm going to keep the list as is now, because I do really like the flashback, but I might switch it over because the draw card can be pretty useful too. Not 100% certain which is better there. Something that you'll notice is that our curve is very, very low. So almost everything costs 1. There's a few things that cost 2, and then there's only 4 cards that cost 3 mana. So because of that, it lets us really trim down on our lands. We only have 19. So really, really few lands. We rely pretty heavily on Swiftwater Cliffs sometimes to get us the mana that we need. And that's kind of the main deck. Dispel is a way for us to fight through different counter spells and removal, just like Apostle's Blessing. So we have a few things like that that are kind of tricksy. Now, An important thing if you ever end up playing against this deck to note is use your removal spells on your own turn. Don't use them on the turn that this deck is attacking. Because if you use it, you can use it after attacks, but don't use it before attacks. I've won many times by my opponent trying to kill my Ilyon Fiend or Nivik Cyclops on my turn with an instant, and then me just like Apostle's Blessing and Dispelling, and that actually gave me the last spell that I needed to be able to win the game. I wouldn't have been able to win the game if my opponent hadn't tried to remove my Ilyon Fiend. So really important thing to do, don't fight on the turn of the Ilyon Fiend player, fight on your own turn. Which is kind of counterintuitive, but you don't want me to be able to like use my Apostle's Blessing and Dispels to pump my Ilyon Fiend before an attack. The sideboard here, I've changed up a little bit. If you're familiar with my stream, I switched out a couple of cards. I took out one Stone Rain because I've been finding that I haven't been using them as often. This list was often used when there was still a little bit more Tron in the format, and there was some important matchups that killed their lands. Now it's a little less important. It's still good against, there's a Kuldotha Jeskai deck where it's kind of important. When they play bounce lands, so when they play the double lands, Stone Rain generally comes in because you can kill their bounce land, and that's just a huge setback for them. It's also pretty useful, like I said, there is still Tron running around, so I still like having 2, but I used to have 3. The other change that I made is I took out Miscalculation, because it wasn't doing enough for me. It's good against like mono black control lists where you're trying to stop Chainer's Edict and things like that that are sorcery speed removal and that don't target. So things like Dispel don't hit it because it only counters instants, and Apostle's Blessing doesn't stop it because it gives protection. Mizium Skin also doesn't stop it. So like basically I had no real way to deal with sorcery speed removal spells. Counterspell is taking the place of the Miscalculation just because I found that if I waited to try and play Miscalculation, they normally had enough mana to pay for it. This way I have the Counterspell, it's just straight done. I'm hoping that might be a little bit better for me in those matchups. Mono Black is definitely one of the worst matchups for this deck. The other sideboard cards are things like Mizium Skin. You put that in against decks that have a lot of removal against you that you might need extra Apostle's Blessing type cards, or a card that's very common in Pauper lists is Quicksand. So the mono blue Delver list, which is more of a control list from ours, runs Quicksand, which is target attacking creature gets -1/-2. That kills Ilyon Fiend, and it can't be protected from because it's colorless. It's just a land. Well, Mizium Skin stops it because it gives hexproof and +0/+1. So Mizium Skin's important in that matchup. We've got some extra Dispels just in case you end up in counter wars against another control deck. Flame Slash to get rid of some bigger creatures. You've got 3 Pyroblasts in the sideboard because any blue deck, Pyroblast is just the best counterspell you can have. It's amazing. You can destroy permanents, you can counter spells, all for 1 red mana. It's really, really great. So you want to slam a bunch of those in. And then we have Flaring Pain, and Flaring Pain's important because there's a few decks, white decks often run things like Prismatic Strands or Circle of Protection Red, and those can just really hose you. If they can land a Circle of Protection, it's very, very hard to win if you don't have Flaring Pain because they can just prevent, you know, for one mana, they prevent your Ilyon Fiends from ever dealing damage. And it's almost impossible to fight through that unless you had the Flaring Pain. Yeah. Unless you have the Flaring Pain. I'm a little tongue-tied there. But this is a really important card in those kinds of matchups. It's also good against a card called Prismatic Strands, which prevents damage and some fog effects and things like that. So they're kind of important in those matchups. We'll see those occasionally. So we're going to just be using this a little bit for the next little while in our videos. I'm going to use this, and I'm going to use a mono black control list that I'll show you guys later, so I'll show you that another time. But for now, what we're going to do is we're going to join a league and play some games. Here we are with our first Pauper League match, and let's look at our hand here. So the hands that we're looking for are ones with draw spells and part of our combo, one piece of it. So generally either a creature like Nivik Cyclops or Ilyon Fiend, or a Temur Battle Rage, which is kind of the other half of the combo. This hand certainly does that. We've got Ponder, we've got Gitaxian Probe, which is nice because we can see if the way is clear before we go all in on the combo, as it were. And yeah, it looks fine. It's not an amazing hand. It's better with a Ilyon Fiend for sure, because you can go a little faster, but it seems fine. I have no idea what my opponent's on, so we'll keep this and see what happens. Him being on the play is a little annoying. We want to be as fast as possible. It looks like he might be a burn deck. Yep, so he's going to just slam Lava Spike. Burn is a decent matchup for us. I have to be a little bit careful to protect my Nivik Cyclops here, because he can burn it out. But I'm glad actually now that we don't have the Ilyon Fiend, because we can go a little bit slower. He's not going to have creatures to block us. He's not going to deal us damage so quickly that we can't kill him with Nivik Cyclops first. And it's nice that we have the Cyclops because it's a lot harder for him to use burn spells on it. A little bit more toughness. Alright, so we're going to Ponder here, and I'm just going to try and set up for my next turn or two. So there's a Ilyon Fiend, a Nivik Cyclops, and an island. That's a little awkward because we really need to get a Tamer Battle Rage. And preferably some way to protect the Nivik Cyclops too, like an Apostle's Blessing would be really good. Dispel wouldn't be bad either. I think that we're just going to shuffle this. So we're just going to do that and just shuffle that away. Alright, so now we get Preordain, which is a little more powerful than Ponder. That's a good draw. I might have to Gitaxian Probe him next turn just to see what's going on. Okay, Curse of the Pure Start, that I don't mind. That's a really slow burn win condition. It's nice because it's a lot of late game reach. There's not a lot of ways to interact with it, but it's also good for us just that it's not going to be super fast. We're not under as much pressure. I kind of want to Gitaxian Probe him just so that I can see if Nivik Cyclops is okay next turn. Problem is normally I can play Gitaxian Probe for the 2 life. I don't really want to do that against Burn. So I'm just going to check it out right now and see what happens. I wish I had another island instead of 2 mountains. Oh, he's just got 1 Incinerate and 3 mountains. That's pretty good for me. So let's just make sure that we write that down, because we don't want to forget. So we're going to keep track of his cards here. And that way we know exactly what's been played. Ooh, and we drew the Tamer Battle Rage. Good times for us. Hopefully he just slams the... Okay, so he cycles Forgotten Cave. I really wanted to just slam that Incinerate on us. He's probably not going to. And I might bolt him. No, there's no reason to yet. The thing with bolting him is that it doesn't do enough. I'd rather just have it as 6 damage or more when I have Nivik Cyclops in play. And he might get things like Keldon Marauder, so I don't want to leave that down right now. I'm going to play the Nivik Cyclops. If he gets another burn spell, he can kill it. But I think it's worth the risk because we just have the win next turn. The other thing is with that is that if he doesn't go for the Nivik Cyclops, if he does go for the Nivik Cyclops, he probably doesn't have enough burn to finish us off. Not right away anyways. Alright, so he used a Lightning Strike, so that was obviously his draw. So he has Incinerate in hand. There's like no way that he can burn us out from here. I do actually need 1 more land or a Gitaxian Probe here to win. Okay, so there we go. This should definitely give us the win. What we do is we just Ponder first, see if I can't draw like a Dispel just as a in-case kind of card. A Dispel or a Apostle's Blessing. Wow, that's terrible. Shuffle that. Preordain. I'd actually rather use Artful Dodge. Well, I'm wondering about whether or not I want to use the Artful Dodge here or whether I want to Preordain. I don't want to Preordain without knowing what I need. But I guess that's probably fine. Like, I'm going to have a rough estimate of what I need for next turn. Hopefully he doesn't have Fire Blast to kill the Nivik Cyclops or something like that. Another Battle Rage. I actually don't really want that right now, because I'm going to need another creature if I'm going to Battle Rage him. So let's do that. Ooh, Gitaxian Probe. That's interesting, because it lets us know whether or not the Battle Rage is okay, but I think we just go for it here. I don't want to spend the 2 life, because there's nothing I can do to prevent it if he does have it. And it's still equally bad for us if he kills it now, if we go for it or if we don't. All it does is just lose us 2 life. Oh, he did draw another burn spell to kill it, huh? Needle drop. That sucks. Well. Another Curse of the Pierced Heart. Unfortunate. I think that it was okay to go for it, though. We just needed him to miss 1 turn. Just happened that he didn't. So I'm going to play a Ponder here. We need to try and draw another Kiln Fiend or something. Alright, there's Kiln Fiend and a Dispel. So that's good. Do this, this, this. No shuffle. I might need to pay the life for Gitaxian Probe, just so that I can protect the Kiln Fiend with a Dispel here. So let's pay the life. We're going kind of low, but it does let us protect it with the Dispel. So he just has the Mountain, and pass the turn. Plays his land. Alright, we really need a hit here. Come on, Battle Rage. Apostle's Blessing. That's not great because we have to pay life for it. So I'm actually going to bottom both of these. Swiftwater Cliffs gains us a life. That's okay. Let's bolt him in the face. And hit. Leave up Dispel for next turn, and hopefully we can go like dodge, dodge, Dispel. He drew another land. That's a really good sign. Okay, I can Dispel that. So that should be game then. Because I can dodge, dodge, and flashback a dodge, and that's 10 damage. Alright. We go to 4, and then we win. Whew! So yeah, that's a good example of the burn matchup. Let's preordain here, just because. Kinda don't need to, but why not? Now I can bolt him in the face, that's also lethal. So we can definitely take out these Artful Dodges. They're decent because they still deal like 3 damage and you can flash them back. So you can deal 6 damage off of 2 mana. But they're a lot worse because he doesn't really have any blockers. So we'll get rid of the Artful Dodges. We're going to want probably more Dispels because he's got things like Fire Blast. Countering Fire Blast can be a really big game if they pay the alternate cost, which is nice. We might want Mizium Skin as well. Just thinking, I probably want to cut Apostle's Blessings for Mizium Skin. I don't want to pay life for cards against a deck that's just trying to burn me in the face. Just a little bit easier to cut those and play the Mizium Skins. I still will keep 2 Apostle's Blessings because it's really important that we keep our creatures alive. But it's better if we don't have to pay the life for it, so we'll just play the Mizium Skins over them. A little tougher on the mana, but that's okay. Alright. So, oh, I'm crazy. For some reason, I took out 4 Artful Dodges and I put in the 2 Dispels, thinking I put in 4 cards. Right. So that's what we want to do. I'll keep in the Apostle's Blessing, I think, over Counterspell still. This is a really fast match. It's going to be hard for me to leave up 2 blue mana. If you notice, I was pretty choked on mana that whole game, which is actually where I want to be. I don't want to have more than like 4 or 5 mana at maximum. A lot of the times you can kill off of 3. So I don't really need to have more than that, but this is for more grindy matchups. I don't really want it here for the burn. So let's go to game 2 here. Submit that. Okay, so by our criteria, like we said before, we want to have creatures and we want to have draw spells. This is a perfect hand because of that. Like, it's not, I guess perfect is the wrong word to use, but it's a good hand. We might just play a Delver here. We might be able to soak up a Rift Bolt with it. I want to be able to get the Kiln Fiend online fairly quickly. But I guess it's better if I can protect it anyways, so I don't mind if I play it on turn 3. Yeah, so we'll just Delver here. If we can flip a Delver, then he's going to have to use removal on it. And then it's a little bit of pressure off of our Kiln Fiend and off of us just dying randomly to burn, which is always nice. Rift Bolt goes to... what? Delver or me? Drum roll, please. Me. Straight to the face. So he's smart enough that he thinks that he can race Delver. That's probably the correct play by our opponent. Curse the Pierced Heart. Sure. Really depends on whether or not I get good RNG and can just flip this Delver as to whether or not he needs to use the removal on it. Island. That is poor RNG. A bit awkward. I don't want to use Ponders too early because I need to keep some spells in hand for when I actually have Kiln Fiend in play, but I need something better than what's going on right now. This is a lot of land. Probe and Probe. I don't love that because these don't really draw in the right way. I think it's better than a random, knowing that I'm getting a Probe right now. And then I can flip the Delver. Oh, he does have Keldon Marauders. Glad I kept the Lightning Bolts in then. Okay. That's 5 damage for 2 mana. It's pretty good. Needle Drop on me. Wow, just doesn't even care at all about this Delver. That's crazy. So do I play Nivik Cyclops to block the Keldon Marauders, or do I just play Kiln Fiend and hold up Apostle's Blessing? That's the question. I don't think I trade Insectile Aberration for it. I feel like Cyclops is the play here. We slow him down a lot. If he has to use removal on it, then that's really good for us. Because we do have backup in the Kiln Fiend here. And we know that we're not going to be able to go off right away because we have a mountain on top of our library. So we'll play a little bit slower. Let's close that chat window. Lava Spike me. He must have a really good hand. So I don't think that I don't think he has anything. So we saved ourselves 3 damage by playing Nivik Cyclops. That's good. And oh, he's gonna bolt. Well, this seems, yeah, he could have gone in 3 damage then. So a little bit of a mistake by my opponent here. He changed his mind at the last second, I guess, as to whether or not he should do it. That is fine by me. So we'll hit him with the Insectile Aberration and just hold up the Apostle's Blessing, I guess. I don't want to use the Gitaxian Probes yet, because I'm probably going to try and do that on my turn when I can use it on the Kiln Fiend and just go off. That's the hope. I am down to 9. Not insignificant. He still has 2 cards in hand and probably no lands because he hasn't been playing them the last couple turns. It's a bit scary. I hate having to use Apostle's Blessing to save the Kiln Fiend too because it does mean that I'm losing 2 life. And that's very important here. Cycles Forgotten Cave. Okay, that's a decent sign. See what he gets. Keldon Marauders. That's good. Apostle's Blessing can get us through that, because we can give our Kiln Fiend protection from red. If he doesn't play a land here, then I know the coast is probably clear. We can just go off. Oh yeah, okay, so we definitely win here. Nice. Let's probe him to make 100% certain. Because he could still have... Okay, he doesn't have Fire Blast. That's the card that I was worried about, because he can pay the ultimate cost for that, which I'd need to hold Apostle's Blessing up for then. Nice thing is Temur Battle Rage does give my guy Trample as well. So I just need to deal him 10 damage. Let's probe him again. I'll pay the life. No fear. Oof, man, those land drops really suck, though. Luckily, we are more than okay. And give it pro red. Oops. That's fine, though. We still win right now. I don't even need to show the Temur Battle Rage, honestly. Bam. Got him! Alright, so there's our first match down. Gives you a decent idea of what the burn matchup is like, what you kind of got to watch out for. It's, I think, a pretty decent matchup for us. It's hard for them to have to, like, section off their spells between going for our threats and going for our face, because they only have so much reach, and if you can get them to use a whole bunch of it on your Kiln Fiends and your Delver of Secrets and stuff like that, then they don't have it to go straight for your face. The sideboard gets a lot better, too, because, of course, putting in things like Dispel is really, really nice, and Mizium Skin is not bad either. Replacing the Apostle's Blessing with Mizium Skin is nice, or just being able to have options of not paying life for it. It can be a little risky to use things like Ataxian Probes and Apostle's Blessings, so I think you should just go a little bit slower. Make sure you're not, like, you know, going really deep on Probe turn 1 kind of thing like you normally would in this deck. And then you'll do a little bit better against the burn deck. You've just got to play it a little bit slow and careful. Watch out for Fire Blast, because that's a real nasty surprise. Alright, but that's game 1. Let's go on to our next round. I gotta be a little more careful with this one. I'd like to hold Gitaxian Probe for when I actually have Kiln Fiend in play, but I need to make sure that he doesn't just Galvanic Blast it again. Ugh, alright, so he has Galvanic Blast and a Flame.